Growing up, I read a lot and watched a lot of movies, and I consumed probably way too many Disney fairy tales, and as I got older, way too many John Hughes movies. And there are two things that those types of stories have in common, or most of them anyway, and that's usually that the protagonist makes a huge romantic gesture to win the heart of the person that he or she loves. And so I grew up with that concept in mind. And so when I got to high school, and I met a new group of friends, and I met a young lady named Tracy who I really, really liked, started to like a whole lot, and wanted to tell her how I felt. I knew I just couldn't tell her because of the movies and the stories I'd read. I had to show her in some huge romantic gesture. But this was 1992, and I was 15. There's only so many gestures a 15-year-old can make, so I tried to think, what can I do to show her how I feel? And I finally decided, you know what I should do? I should dedicate a song to her on the radio. That would be romantic. I don't know if you remember that, but dedicating songs on the radio was a big thing. And again, this was 1992, and I was trying to decide what song I should dedicate to Tracy. And really, there was only one choice. The previous year, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves had come out, starring Kevin Costner with the worst English accent ever. But in that film, which was very romantic, by the way, there was a song by one Bryan Adams. Everything I do it for you. And boy, it was a romantic song. Forget Celine Dion. Bryan Adams was where it was at. And I knew that was the song I had to dedicate to Tracy. And so I called 97.5, the radio station in Waco, and I waited on hold for what seemed like hours. Had to have been 10 minutes tops, but it felt like hours to 15-year-old me. And I finally got through to the DJ, and I said, can you please dedicate Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams from Mark to Tracy? And he said, I'll try to get it on in the next 30 minutes, and he hung up. But it worked. I thought, oh my God, it's going to work. My plan is going to work. But part two of the plan was also very important. I had to make sure that Tracy was listening. So I called her. We had talked a little bit on the phone, so I called her and I said, hey, there's going to be something really cool that happens on 97.5 in about 30 minutes. Make sure you're listening. And she assured me that she would. And so I sat by the radio waiting, hoping for the song to come on so that my love could be told to her. Now, one thing I do want to kind of backtrack and remind you of is that during the 80s, 90s, and even up into the aughts, a lot of radio stations had what was called the Morning Zoo Crew show. That was the wacky show in the morning, the drive to work, where they would do funny gags and stuff. And one of the things they always had was a library of wacky sounds. Things like Homer Simpson going, "Go!" or the Terminator, "I'll be back," or like sound effects, bling, things like that. Okay. I'm sitting by the radio waiting for the song to come on. And then I hear the soft piano start. And the DJ comes on and he says, next up, we've got Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams. This one's going out to Tracy from Mark. And the piano starts. And those lyrics start, look into my eyes. You will see what you mean to me. Blow me. And I stop. It's whoa. Did somebody just say, blow me over the song I dedicated to Tracy? No, there's no way that happened. It had to be my nerves. My nerves are acting up. That's all it is. So I convinced myself that actually had not happened. And I kept listening, and it got to that chorus part. Girl, you know it's true. Everything I do it for you. Blow me! Again, with the blow. I had not imagined it. This man was hitting a button where somebody was screaming, blow me, over the song I wanted to dedicate to the girl I liked, and he must have hit it 400 times. That's not true. It was probably 4, but it felt like 400, and the song ended, and I was completely devastated. Like, what would Tracy have thought? Her friend, the guy she'd been hanging out with, had like a cool connection with. He calls up on a random Friday night and says, hey, listen to the radio. And she does. And some guy goes, blow me. What in the world? And so I had to put together a plan to fix this. And I thought, and there was really only one course of action that made sense. Never talk to Tracy again. Ever. Avoid her at all cost. which I did. From that point forward, I never talked to her again. Next year, I transferred schools, not because of her, but it just worked out that way. So I have no idea what she thought. And from that point forward, I didn't avoid grand romantic gestures. I don't think I can. But what I did do was make sure that I instigated them. And don't rely on people like Jeff the Jammer from 97.5 in Waco, Texas. Thanks for nothing, Jeff. Thank you.